Hello, welcome back to another edition of Hobby News Daily. I'm still Danny Black, and today I'm joined by the reason we're friends is because you lie to my face and stuff like that, and I love you for it.
And I love that you buy my lies and don't even question me on them.
So we did not get enough time at the National. Both of us were running in circles. We got to hang out a little bit at the content creators hangout, which we both loved. It was fantastic. For you did so many things at the National. You were busy as heck. Okay. What did you get to enjoy the most?
Oh man, just walking the aisles. Like walking the aisles. When it comes down to it, I mean, yeah, I do a lot of stuff in the hobby with my Sports Cards Live brand and everything, but really, I mean, at the end of the day, I just like walking through a card show and looking into showcases and seeing the cards and seeing what kind of sticks out to me. You know, I love going to card shows, especially the big ones, the National and the Expo, Danny, because I don't know what I'm going to come back with, and that's really exciting. But you know, that's the card part. Enjoy the most are, again, walking those aisles and running into people and having those kind of just impromptu discussions, conversations, or anywhere from a quick fist bump because you're running in opposite directions to a 10-minute stand and talk, which,
Yes,
you know, I love those. That's because back in the day, you know, pre-proliferation of content and all of us being able to connect so well, you'd walk the floor and you just didn't know anybody like you do now. And even if you're not in the content creation game, you at least recognize more people. You see people's faces on Instagram, on YouTube, etc. That you might even just go up to someone and say, "Hey, I recognize you. You know, love that post you did, or great episode, or whatever." And then you have that quick conversation. So it's not just for content creators to go out and have those experiences. It's for the whole community, and the community was in its finest form at this National. I loved it.
it was the first time, and cards are my favorite part of a show too. There's no doubt about it. I could go anonymously to any card show and have a fantastic time. I found at the National, this was the first time, and I'm surprised to even say this. I did not walk in with a card or out with a card. I enjoyed walking the aisles, but I spent more time catching up with friends, doing some business, you know, and just having a blast. I do too much on the screen. You know, it's great to see you actually in person. People can't tell this, but you're a foot taller than me. Okay, that is cool because that's you. You know, and getting to, you know, give you guys a hug and see it in person and those relationships. I'm a little sad I didn't buy a card because I had some things on my want list, but this was one of my favorite Nationals for that. I mentioned it with Mike Monahan also. It was, I thought, the best the community has been in supporting each other.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree with that. The YouTuber, and it wasn't the YouTuber event, it was the YouTube event because it was for creators and viewers and commenters. I mean, I've been to that probably 4 times in a row now, and this was easily the best because you actually had to like drive to get there. So it's not, you know, people weren't staying in the hotel. Like, so people spent more time there, I think, when they came. And it was a facility big enough to hold. I mean, I don't know how many people were there.
We were guessing.
I think you guys.
I think it was between 1 and 200.
Yeah. So definitely over 100 people came through there. Was it close to 2? I mean, that one group picture we took out in front on the grass. I mean, that's the biggest group picture I've ever been a part of. You know,
it's bigger than some high schools.
Exactly right. No, for sure. So yeah, we are really the community's become like a fraternity, you know, for men and women. I mean, it was mostly men at this thing, of course, but it really has become so integral to all of our experiences in the hobby. You know, we often say, you often hear, I'm sure you say it, why are we getting so worked up? We're talking about pictures of men on cardboard, men and women on cardboard. It is so much more than that. Yes, it comes down to, we can come back to the cards, but it's like the opening of my Sports Cards Live jingle song. Sports cards is a lifestyle. Like, it truly is a lifestyle. It's a subculture in a way. And the community has just been so great lately. National, was kind of the highlight of it, the peak moment for me, I would say thus far.
All right, so let's move on. Everybody's done enough national recap. We
I
can.
still got more coming out.
So do I, and I don't feel like bitch, complaining about the bathroom lines or the cell service or the fact that my son waited an hour and a half for a chicken sandwich. But I won't complain about those things.
Not worth it.
Not worth it. What impressed you this year in the hobby so far? Because I thought the national was such a positive, and I wasn't sure which way it was going to go. Moving forward now, do you think that we've got the positive momentum from the national, or are we still up in the air with all the mergers, acquisitions, fanatics, freakouts, or are we going to be able to enjoy the second half of this year?
Never underestimate the ability of the hobby to find issues to take note, to take issue with. The latest being, X-raying unopened product. I mean, so no, I think the simple answer to your question is no, we're not going to be able to enjoy the second half of 2024 drama free, but we shouldn't also, because when a legitimate issue pops, rears its ugly head like this, everybody needs to take note. And I think talk about it, because we need to protect the community, which we are so, such a part of. We need to do our parts to get that word out there so that people are at least informed on what risks lay out there, what landmines are out there for you to try to dance around and not get caught in. And so, it's not a bad thing to talk about these things. Like that is not tinfoil hat issue. These are legitimate issues that need to be spoken of and figured out, right up to the card company manufacturing level. They need to, it's on them to figure out how to defend against X-ray machines now. And I don't envy them for having to do that, but it's like the fake patch epidemic that we've seen. It's going on 20 years now, where the solution is so easy. Document and archive the images of the cards before you pack them out.
Yeah.
I proved that could be done when in 2009, I went to the Upper Deck facility for the pack out of the cup, and I photographed all by myself 28,000 patch cards from that product.
Wow.
I proved it can be done. And so, but yet the card companies haven't taken it upon themselves to do that. And this X-ray issue is the same thing. There is a solution out there. They have to figure out what it is and implement it, and it's going to cost money to do it. And that money is going to end up getting, filtered down to the consumer. So accept that as what it is. But, it's like buying insurance. We have to pay for a more secure product. And so again, back to your, I want to come back to ground zero here. Back to your question. I think that there is a lot of positive coming out of the national because everyone was so excited and values are stabilizing and cards are fun and accessible to so many more people, that we as much as we focus, Danny, on the legitimate issues, I think we have to also focus on the legitimate positives of the hobby, because this is meant for our enjoyment. I'm not going to take on a hobby that's going to just stress me out 24/7.
No. That's what marriage is for. So, Laura, I love you. I have an X-ray and an MRI coming up. I've got a neck issue, so I'm taking submissions actually. For if anybody wants to send me boxes, I'm going to bring them in with me. And
Kill two birds with one stone, right? You'll be there.
I think it's a perfect opportunity. There, I'll just hold it near my neck. It'll be, I think there's an opportunity here. I think group submissions are going to open. We'll start out, and it'll be covered by my insurance.
And when you pick up your phone to take a picture and you tap on the part that's like the most important, you're going to tell the MRI technician, tap on this over here, tap on but don't worry about my neck, tap on the box. We got to see what's in there.
And how about the okay? I've had a crazy week, but evidently first off the line gets all the hits now. In Panini.
That's the recent trend, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, so back to your comment about holding the manufacturers responsible. I mean, down to the literally the manufacturing level. I I agree with you. That is a top-down problem that affects the common collector.
Yes.
Um, and I know some breakers ended up with stuff, and there's some tinfoil hat theory there. But I think that's a legitimate issue moving forward. It's been too many collating issues.
Collation.
Yeah.
I agree completely. Collation is it's so important that collation is fair throughout the hobby, throughout any product launch. And so when we have all these, what were they, downtowns coming out of the same boxes, like super downtown boxes or cases. Now there's two approaches. One is, was it deliberate? Definitely plausible that it was. It's plausible that it was deliberately done. It's also plausible that it was a legitimate error. And you said, you got to deal with it's a manufacturer's issue. It is, but there's a second layer to that I don't think a lot of people are really considering. And I might not even be right about this. So this is really a topic for discussion or a question even, but the card companies use third-party vendors for printing and oftentimes, I believe, collation and packaging. So is it, now, I'm not excusing a Topps, Panini, or Upper Deck, because it's their responsibility to vet their third-party vendor. But there is that extra separation, that level between, is it Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, or is it their third-party vendor, not employees of their company, who are who caused that issue? I don't know the answer. And I'm not giving them a pass, but it's just important, I think, to note that they need to deal with their vendor, just like we need to deal with our vendor.
And to your point, there's been so much change in the products they're making, and I know the Fanatics bought one of the printing presses in Texas, and there's going to be mistakes made. I have a little bit of background in the printing business. It's very tough to be that accurate and expect cards to come out of 10. But the collation issue, which I cannot pronounce evidently today for some reason, that needs quality control. And I don't like saying the hobby needs to be monitored, because I don't believe in a big brother, but the companies need to have that built in for trust.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and you have to think, in any manufacturing business, you are going to have quality control at several steps along the line. And we often, in our own, the hobby's imagination can run wild as to what does that actually look like in these facilities. Like, if it is a non-owned printing facility, so a third-party vendor to the company, what deal do they have with their vendor to have their representative on site overseeing the process, testing the collation, pulling samples for printing control, cutting quality, all these different things? I don't know the answer to those. We rarely hear from the card companies in that regard as to what are they doing what we hear about is after the fact, we hear them say, yeah, we're going to do a better job of monitoring our vendor. Well, like, almost too late. Like, you've already, it's always good to rectify moving forward, but some damage has been done that has hurt people in the pocketbook, either, at least because maybe they didn't have a chance at pulling those downtowns because they were all jammed into some other person's box, for better or for worse, intentionally or unintentionally. So yeah, you mentioned you're not into the big brother thing, and I'm not either, but I think there is an opportunity or a potential need for there to be certain audit procedures put in, like third party on behalf of the hobby audit procedures, so that the hobby can be comfortable that, number one, collation is fair. Number two, that the back of a card says that this patch memorabilia is certified to us as being legit. By whom? Who are you, sir? Who are you? Whose certification are you passing on? Yep. Who certified it to you? I want to be able to go to your website and see who that person is and why they deserve to certify it to you.
You're an interview where I just kind of agree.
Well, yeah, I'm sorry.
I know I'm not supposed to nod my head the whole time, but dude, you're speaking the truth. I'm going to push back a little bit on the third party big brother just because that's my nature. But the internal quality control is going to cost these companies business at some point. I would never buy a first off the line box now, knowing that they're having these issues. And
Right.
I would think that a lot of stores, when they're placing orders, have to consider that also.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think, when it comes down to the collector, I'm hoping that the result is the companies are forced to take it more seriously themselves.
Yeah. So you're talking about like an internal audit procedure versus an external. Now, both are going to cost the company money because when you hire an external auditor, you have to pay for that, whether it's voluntary or due to regulation. You need to pay for that internal auditor to come in and audit whatever it is that they're auditing. Big professional accounting firms often perform those tasks, and they will do special cases that are outside of the scope of a normal financial statement audit. And that's something that I would like to see. Now, if it's not going to go to external, at least I would expect to understand the internal audit procedures and policies that a company has. What are you looking at? What sample are you taking? If you're producing 1 million single cards in a Prism release, what percentage of that is being inspected? Is it 1%? Is it 0.1%, 0.01%? It's going to be low, but at least tell us, give us some ideas, because we are trusting you with a lot of money nowadays.
Well, that's what I'm thinking about is the average collector not being able to trust a product they're buying. You're going to force people into buying singles, and the price of the singles, gets so out of whack and crazy sometimes. It becomes a real problem when you can't buy a box and the singles get too high. It's an issue. I have hope. I'm positive that it'll get resolved at some point, because I think it's embarrassing for the companies, which is why I think Panini dropped a statement on a Friday night dump, just to sneak it in, so it wasn't caught by everybody. But that being said, I feel so positive coming out of the National that maybe it's a little Pollyanna-ish. I just think that prices and enthusiasm, when you look at the grading numbers and they continue to grow, and the excitement at the booths, at the National, I think people really are jumping back in the pool as opposed to dipping a toe in the water after the pandemic.
Yeah, that's my perspective as well. The vibe and energy in the room at the National was one of giddiness. People were just happy to be there, adding cards to their collection. I mean, I didn't hear anything negative about the hobby in there outside of, those 3 issues with the facility itself, which I just want to remind people, anytime you've gone to a sporting event, anytime you've gone to a concert,
Yeah.
you're waiting in lines. You might not be able to go get that hot dog in the intermission or in between innings or quarters because the lineup's too long. Now you're going to be frustrated and hungry. You got to wait till the next. If you don't want to miss the game that you paid to be at, you got to wait till the next quarter to get there. I mean, there are some things that I understood, Stan, could have been better, like Wi-Fi. We should have good Wi-Fi, but again, outside of those what are to me very minor issues, once you were in that building, God, there's nowhere I'd rather have been.
I was so excited to run into people. I mean, first of all, can you talk about being in the fishbowl and doing those interviews and describe the Fanatics, not Fanatics, the National radio booth or whatever they called it? Because I was in there for an interview, but I was watching you in there. You were animated and you were doing fun and high fives, and I mean, you look like you were hosting a party with your guest in there. Yeah, was that your regular show or what was that?
Yeah. So, well, what that was so the National itself had reached out to me and said, we'd like, we have a podcast studio. We'd like to allocate you a certain amount of slots in there. And, I said, okay, well, who do you want me to bring? Like, but it's up to you. Just do you, but do it in their booth. I said, gladly. So they gave me 7 slots. So I think 7 1-hour slots over the course of the 5-day show. And my strategy was basically to, like, an hour before my slot, walk towards the podcast studio and find a guest. So I was it was like, there was one point where I was on my way to go to Andy Albert's booth, Indy Card Exchange. I wanted to get an LCS's perspective. So I was on my way to his booth, and Adam Gray is there. I'm like, okay, well, perfect. I'd like to get you both in there. Me and Adam do a lot of content together, but this is the first time we've done it sitting physically together. And that was a lot of fun. But what, you walked, we're sitting in that fishbowl. And when you watch these videos, which I just released all 7 of mine on my YouTube channel on Sports Cards Live last night. So you can go watch those. And you'll see various times as I was watching one of them back yesterday, you'll see me like do this, Danny. I'm like I'm looking, my guest is like over there, right? And I'm kind of going like, or like waving to people, because you could see people walk by, stand and watch you. And anyway, it was a ton of fun, but it was really, I guess what you see on those is what you would see if my regular Sports Cards Live show was an in-person event versus virtually me sitting here in my home office.
And that's exactly where I was heading with that. How often, if ever, have you gotten to do Sports Card Live with the full hour in person?
I mean, never really before. I've at the Sport Card Expo, I've sat on and moderated probably a dozen panels over the last, maybe even more now, over the last couple of years. I've sat and interviewed athletes that were there to autograph. I've done about 5 of those now, but that's not the same thing. The other difference from so this was actually the national live podcast studio presented by TikTok of all. Okay. And, the only thing that was missing is my chat, my audience, because I integrate my chat into my show at a very high level, and so I couldn't do that. But that's said, I'd see people walking by, I'd see people, but I just couldn't take questions or comments from them. So, and these were short. These 7 episodes that I loaded onto my channel last night are between like 19 and 26 minutes each. So for me, they're very short.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm absolutely guilty of being one of the people who walked by the fishbowl and made faces at you and pointed at you. And you looked like you were having fun. I just wanted to be part of the party.
Thanks.
Jeremy Lee, it is good to catch up with you.
Same here, buddy. Always a pleasure.
And people should know, when we talk on the phone, this is pretty much the same conversations that we have. We just hit record and went today. So I appreciate you chewing the fat for a little while.
Thanks for having me back, buddy. Always a pleasure.
All right. You're not too big to give a shout out where people can find you. Sports Card Live, give all the handles and the stuff.
I mean, I am just a hair under 6'6" tall, but still not too. Yeah. My YouTube channel is Sports Cards Live. My Instagram handle is on the screen at JLEE_Sports Cards Live. And you can find me on Twitter as well at SportsCardsLive1.
And guilty of dad jokes every so often.
Whenever I get the chance to slip one in.
All right. Jeremy, thank you very much. To everybody else, we'll see you on the next episode. I'll catch you in the green room, buddy. Take care, everybody. See you later.